Just start whenever you guys are.
Hey, I will call this work session for the Orem City Planning Commission to order at 4:32 p.m. on July 16th, 2025 in the Orem Council Chambers. And we will just follow the update of our agenda for the work session and begin with we're going to continue working on our general plan and start with the water conservation element.
Do you want to? Matt's going to talk you through that. He's prepared it and wants to talk to you about it a little bit. Matt, do you want to talk at the podium or do you want to talk here? So I can get out your way. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes paper helps when you have a big little summary over sheets because there's a lot in there and possibly you might not want to read it all, although I highly encourage you, your fiduciary duty to do so.
So is this the stuff we're gonna discuss today?
No, this is, I'm gonna give you a 5-minute.
Yeah, that's
We're not really discussing.
what we're talking about this year. I see on the.
Legislature.
Got to turn your mic on.
Utah State Legislature adopted a provision a couple of years ago, Senate Bill 110. It requires general plans to incorporate a chapter based on water use and preservation. We have a deadline of December 31st, 2025. We had sort of been sitting on this depending on the timeline of how the general plan discussion in general would go. But in anticipation that the general plan is not fully updated by December, we'd like to get this element or chapter in queue so that we can have it before the city council, hopefully several months before December 31st. But essentially, the chapter outlines different areas in which that we need to address. And that's the summary sheet is the brief version. It's a little bit longer summary sheet, which is the second part. And then the third part of what I passed to you is the actual document. Now, the lion's share of this information, because we are a proactive city, has already come from other planning documents that the Public Works Department has generally spearheaded, which is our water master plan and our water conservation master plan. So in essence, we were way ahead of the state legislature on this. Most larger cities that have their own water municipality system do. I would suspect that this legislation came out of counties and some municipalities or other cities that had not proactively addressed, but we got caught up into it all. So this wasn't very difficult to produce because 90% of the information was already available to us. 90% of the planning and the strategies that we have been working on and continue to work on have been laid out and we're acting on. So in some ways, this is a summary of both those documents. We've added a few things. This has been reviewed by our water department. It's also been reviewed by the several state departments that had an interest in looking at this, and they found that this was in compliance with the statutes. So again, there's 3 different documents here, depending on your level or time at the moment or in the coming weeks to review this and get your head around what this document is. And then that's the introduction. That's all I plan on doing today, unless you have specific questions. And then we'll schedule this again, hopefully before September, for a more thorough presentation and discussion. Okay?
Thank you. Any questions?
The three documents is the summary of 2 pages,
There's
The
a super
introduction?
summary. Yes,
And
and
then
then
the
there's a little
chapter-
bit longer summary.
and then chapter 2 land use, which is 1 page front and back.
Sorry, I might have handed you the.
Oh, the introduction, right there. So, okay.
That's the actual draft.
So that's the third part,
Yes.
and the first part is just the summary.
We have this 1-page summary, and then there's a 3-page longer summary, a little more detail.
Okay,
Okay?
excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay,
So
Jared?
yeah, we'll have that back for you as a public hearing item at some point here, as soon as we can, to make sure we're in line to get it adopted in time. And then the general plan will catch up to it and we'll make it fit the formatting and stuff.
So we'll have a chance to discuss the actual plan before
Sure.
the public meeting. right?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's why we're here now, because that takes time to do everything that needs to be done. We wanted to have it in your hands early. And since we already had it, we just had hoped that, like Matt was explaining, we had hoped that we'd have the general plan ready to go. And our confidence level in having that ready to go in December is waning. So we wanted to make sure we get this for you. We can move on to the next items.
The next item, along the same lines, housing and moderate income housing report discussion. That is also time sensitive, so we need to start the discussion.
It is, and it's a good moment for us to talk a little bit about housing as well. And then Grant's going to talk to you about some of the things that are coming up with the moderate income housing report.
Clunk around in everybody's ears. A few years ago, the state required cities to report on this topic with respect to having a moderate income housing report. Now it's an annual report required. We were required to adopt 5 strategies and develop kind of an implementation plan for each of those strategies. But so before I report on the existing strategies, last year and this year, the legislature passed some amendments to this chapter for strategies. And so I just thought we were trained on it as planners, and I thought these would be interesting to bring up. We'll also bring these up to the council as they have homeownership promotion and first-time home buyer promotion. And so HB 37 added a kind of a submenu of these super strategies that promotes affordable ownership that offer advantages with respect to our reporting and our strategies as part of our required adopted strategies, part of this compliance with this chapter and this statute. So if we can ignore kind of the first one. If we have a fixed guideway, which is AKA front runner, as well as UVX stations. So we have those. So they ignore the first one. If we have fixed guideway stations, we can use 3 strategies instead of 5 strategies, which we currently have 5. And then we're not a county, so that doesn't apply. And the submenu of the super strategies, I have these links, and I'll share these via email as well. First, I'll kind of go to this slide and I'll show some tabs here from those links. So we already have the HTRZ as one of our strategies, actually. That's a housing transit reinvestment zone. And that's specifically a specific radius around these front runner stations. But the other 2 new super strategies are this home ownership promotion zone and the first home investment zone. And there's different requirements as part as what these are. So I just thought I'd bring these up and you just put it out there. I'm still learning about this as a planner. You can be introduced to it and learn about it and think about it as we are focusing on promoting homeownership and that is an option for people in this, in the city, as well as first homes in the city, and how important that is for people to have the ability, the opportunity to choose to do that. And so there's, different ways that each of these are structured, and requirements, et cetera, from what was approved by the legislature. And so we'll get into that here in a minute. And then, so just a matrix showing the new strategies, previous requirements. So we're there at the bottom of the top matrix. Municipality with fixed guideway station, we're required to adopt 5 strategies. And the right column is priorities. If we want priority funding from the governor's office of economic opportunity, or they've changed their name again, haven't they? Okay, thank you. I thought they changed their name again. Then if we want priority fundings and from them for projects and stuff like that, we would adopt 6 strategies. The new guidelines, if we chose to go this direction, which is all obviously up to lots of discussion and consideration, and then we would have 3 for the new strategies. So just bringing this to our attention, introducing the concept, introducing the discussion, and obviously much more discussion to be had.
Grant, Payson has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you go back one page?
Yeah.
Thank you. So those 3 strategies are 1 we already have, 2 we're looking for, 2 we're looking towards.
Well, there's these 2 new ones are the ones that I'm kind of just bringing to our attention that were just
found out about.
created and we found out about.
And then you said you already had 5 strategies prior to that.
Correct. So yeah, let me go to this end here. These are the existing strategies that we've adopted.
Okay, so when you add those 5 to the new one, that's 7. So we can pick 6 if we wanted to priority of the 7.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
we can drop one of those off if we didn't agree with.
In effect, and the guidance that DWS, Division of Workforce Services, who is the state agency that we report to annually, their guidance also was, as you consider year by year as we do our report, if there's a strategy that maybe we're not moving forward on just because of timing, or we've decided to go a different direction with that strategy, then yeah, to your point, we could consider adopting different strategies. Obviously, that's a bigger topic for further discussion as far as the whole list of strategies and what that looks like, especially with the context of what is already existing in Orem, and in the greater discussion of this general plan update, we're not quite to chapter 4 of talking about housing yet, but we have kind of interfaced with a little bit of the topic with respect to the land use chapter, right? And the topic of housing in the city, where it's at, the existing housing stock, the existing housing types, the existing, et cetera. But just to bring to light, the first strategy is ADUs, or accessory apartments. ASH, if you don't know what that is, it's an overlay zone in the city, affordable senior housing, that we have already a overlay zone for that, encouraging deed restricted, income restricted units for seniors over a certain age. And those are actually fourplexes that they're required to report annually on the incomes of their tenants. And so we can the HTRZ is that housing transit reinvestment zone down by the front runner station. The stationary plan is required because we have one. We have that station. And then impact fees, which we did an amendment for in December of 24 for reducing impact fees for the affordable senior housing projects, that if someone who's interested in coming and doing one of those and they qualified, then we would reduce the impact fees for those projects. And so that's the strategies that we're reporting on. Those reports are due August 1st of every year. And now, if we don't report, there's penalties. There's financial penalties for the cities who don't file a report. So we have a draft ready, and we're reviewing that with DWS pretty soon. They have technical assistance for us to to get feedback on a report. As far as the annual, if there's been any changes this year, there hasn't been any changes with respect to the report itself. Last year there was. So, so we're anticipating we'll be fine with meeting that deadline. And so I'll go back if there's any other questions at this point.
Yeah, a couple of questions for context, just so people understand what we're talking about. So these strategies we adopted. I know I was on the planning commission, so it must have been about 3 years ago that we did it.
Correct.
Was the last time that they came through and we adopted these strategies and made recommendations. We didn't. City council adopted them on our recommendation. And so this is a required part of the, kind of like that water thing. It's required. So this is part of all of trying to
Correct.
make
It
this
is
compliant.
required as part of our general plan to be included. And so at the time, we included it in the existing chapter, which is chapter 4 of the existing general plan. It was officially adopted in spring of 23 after we made some adjustments from the state guidance and requirements. So that if you go to the general plan page right now, and the ones we've printed for you is the amended one with the inclusion of these strategies.
And so we're talking about the adoption, this is clarification for me too, like, we're talking about the adoption of potentially these other ideas as part of our update to our
Just-
master plan, or just to be aware of them?
I think just wanted to bring them
Okay.
to your attention and
Yeah.
kind of, and say, hey, these strategies exist. Whether I'm not suggesting in any way that whether they're, going to fit in Orem, it's like we need to look closer at the requirements of what they are. It's just more of like, hey, there's these strategies that exist that state is trying to show cities, hey, it's with respect to these plans, these requirements from the state, I think they're giving cities some more options to look at with respect to adopting additional strategies and lessening the requirements. In that case, if we choose to go this direction, we have less strategies that we are required to adopt then.
Yeah.
But to Hasten's point, if we choose to consider more, then yeah, we do move into that priority status area for where you qualify ourselves for priority consideration.
Jason?
Couple of questions. One, what does that mean? Priority versus comply, because you can comply, but.
That's a good question. What I think I'd be more than willing to go and get some more specificity for what that means with respect to the existing requirements. My understanding before was, and maybe, Jared, if you have anything to add about this, but my understanding is with respect to transportation funding and Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, priority projects, et cetera, that it shows that we, I don't know quite how it edges us out for any other community that's trying hard too, right? But my understanding is that it does do that. It was showing that because we're willing to adopt more strategies, then we raise up a ranking maybe in terms of requesting funds for grants, et cetera.
So I'd love to know that if it does advance our ranking.
I'm glad
That's
to get some more
number one.
information for you and provide
Number
it to you.
two, in what capacity does it advance our ranking? Is it in percentage or more funding? Number three, where are they requiring us to spend it on? Is it going to go towards first home buyer? Is it going to go through to what is it going to go to?
Yeah.
I mean, if it must go to areas we don't need, then we don't need to adapt all the strategy. We just need to comply.
Exactly.
But if it helps our citizens to be first-time home buyers or all the other benefits they mentioned up front, 'cause my experience is the government will mention great benefits up front, but when you go do what they ask and the funding does not really go to what they're saying. So I'd love to get a full detail.
Yeah.
And we'll do whatever the best for the citizens are in the city.
Absolutely.
Because if it comes in like, oh yeah, we'll give you funding to do street lighting. But you got to increase traffic by 30%. Like, we're not doing either.
Right.
I would love just like to get a little bit more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to do that. Any other questions for you,
Oh.
Madeline?
I don't have any other questions other than these are, just to reemphasize that these are just additional strategies that we can consider and choose. And they're both kind of new. And they have some, I've looked into them a little bit. They have some unique, they have some good appeal. They also have some parameters on them that could, some of them, yeah. So I think if we get into them and talk about things, that's already an adopted.
That's already adapted, but can you drop an adapted strategy?
Yeah.
All right, here you go,
Yeah.
Mike.
It's adopted but not used. That's why I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
We can amend our strategies. Because it's part of our general plan. We are required to, notice it and go through a process. And so the encouragement I got from DWS was if we're considering adopting new strategies, amending our existing strategies, which then requires us to amend or adopt an implementation plan as part of adopting that strategy is basically with respect to the legislation, we're trying to tell, okay, we're adopting the strategy and therefore the city is going to take this and this and this steps to implementing that strategy. And it basically the purpose of all of this is to try to lessen the burden and also increase the supply of moderate income housing in the community. So to Hasten's point, does some of these strategies really make a difference? That's what we've got to discuss really and get down to the details about with respect to the priority elements, yes, but also the strategies themselves. Are they creating more housing? Are they creating more affordability or less, enabling people to have attainability? Because it's affordability and attainability, I think is another element. Just wanted to kind of introduce these today and review those existing strategies.
Do you have
Thank
any?
you.
I was gonna say, do you have any more specifics on the hops and the fizz or just?
I was going to go back to these links. If you bear with me for a second, I could pull, this last one is a cool chart that the ULCT put together, or no, the Land Use Academy of Utah, but also in conjunction with Utah League of Cities and Towns. Oh, sorry, it's a different window.
And both of these strategies go along with things we've discussed already about housing and some of the things with the general plan about,
ADUs.
home ownership and promoting first-time buyers.
Yeah, Mike, and what I wanted to just express about if a strategy is adopted, the way, how they work. It's a laddering moves. They have you adopted and no penalty for not implementing, and then they ask for implementing with no penalty yet, and then you must implement, and then you must, not because it's adopted or not used, that means they're gonna let it go scot-free. So replacing it would be a possibility.
Last year, we did get a letter of noncompliance for the fifth strategy, impact fees. We had made some amendments 2 years ago with respect to impact fees. And then the state basically said, hey, we haven't seen any progress with respect to this strategy. So then we made the amendment to reduce impact fees for developments in the affordable senior housing. So that's something we were going to report on this year, that we did make that amendment and change. So just for you, if you weren't aware, that's what was an amendment we did make with respect to reporting last year. You can see this chart. It has another element that I didn't include because I was still researching it as well, but I pulled this because it has this housing and transit reinvestment zone, the first home investment zone, home ownership promotion zone, and it has these other two funding tools for housing, and it kind of overviews, the definition of affordable housing and percentage requirement, and with respect to each of these tools. I thought it was interesting. What I was really interested to highlight these for you was that this tool, which is the first home investment tool, it requires 25% of the homes within that zone overlay remain owner occupied for at least 25 years. So there are deed restrictions that are included in that overlay. And so that would require those homes to be owner occupied for that 25-year span. So I think that's a tool that's often, with respect to the tool being deed restrictions, that's a tool often in a housing tool set that is discussed about how to try to ensure homeownership and encourage homeownership. And so then you can see there is different density requirements with respect to each of these tools. There's the zoning sequencing, basically how the zoning is done. GOEO, which is the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, the First Home Investment Zone, and the HTRZ, which is the Housing Transit, sorry, lots of acronyms, the Housing Transit Reinvestment Zone, which is around the front runner station. The Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity is the governing body that we apply through that because it is partially tax increment. So we have to also get buy-in from the other affected entities, the taxing entities. So then it kind of summarizes, like I just reviewed there briefly, the financing tool, duration, who receives the financing tool, how to use the funds. There's some details for you to maybe just high-level details, hasten to your questions, but I'm glad I will get some more information about the other questions. But with respect to these tools, how to use the funds, participation of other taxing entities, as I mentioned, and then there's some, I'm just going to reach out to ULCT if they have some additional maybe training materials on with specificity of each of these tools that we can continue to discuss as we get closer to the housing discussion that we will have as part of our general plan update. I apologize, I need some water. Any question? I kind of sped through these kind of.
Does this change much from year to year?
I would say these have changed in the last few years as the state, I think, has been trying to encourage and find examine proposed ideas and solutions to the housing crisis that isn't just Orem, isn't just Utah, is across the nation, right? So I think that we have seen, when I started here, this report was not as hefty of a report requirement, and there wasn't any penalties for reporting, and now there is, and so the changes have been kind of year to year,
So these definitions are approved by the legislature, then the state legislature?
As part of each of the piece of legislation, correct? So, yeah, as far as the, I can kind of, it has each of those bills.
Okay, I see
at the very top there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get on my broken record soapbox. Yeah, no, this is one of the many things that our legislature keeps trying to do to encourage home development, home building, move that needle along.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think both Fizz and Hops were 2024, and I think they made changes this year to some of them. I don't know how much changes were this year, but so will they probably keep changing them? Yes, I think any of these strategies, but that is true of everything that we're talking about, especially related to housing. I mean, we've brought up detached ADUs, and that's something that probably will be, and it's one thing that's heavily being discussed, that whether it'll be this next or the one after, it's coming, but that's kind of what our legislature keeps doing. They keep trying to turn land use, trying to change the laws on land use. So it is getting more restrictive, right?
That's me.
That's you.
Yeah. I mean, Orem is in a unique spot where there's not too much land left, but we're getting more restrictions imposed.
Mhm.
How are we going to address that? Because if they're thinking redevelopment, but most redevelopment would not be compliant with what they're trying to do, given that people selling their land once at the premium that would allow affordable housing pricing?
Yeah.
Unless if we change the entire DNA of the city and just make it Brooklyn?
Well,
Well, you've seen in Manhattan, that didn't make it affordable.
No, I know.
It got worse.
At some,
That's what drove our prices up in the first place was all the high density.
it's getting so much worse that you can't even drive into certain areas without now paying congestion fee. But no, so how are we going to address all the restrictions, giving not much land left? And how can we keep our eyes on the goalpost that keeps moving and to the point where we're going to find ourselves cornered to have no choice but to disable what we're trying to do for the city and make it an entirely high density city? Because that's what they're moving
exactly
towards.
what they're trying to do.
Well, it's not,
No, I agree with
it's
you.
not hard to see.
No, it's not hard to see. That is the direction. Yes, I agree with you. A lot of these strategies probably work in a lot of cities that are not us.
Yeah, what are the penalties? Let's look at that. What are the penalties? Millions of dollars, thousands of dollars?
I don't have an exact number. I think that's something that I'm for sure, in addition to your other questions,
It depends, I think the penalty depends on what it is that we're missing. So it kind of depends. There's two ways you can violate this. Like if the penalty for not reporting is a monetary thing it's daily until we file the report. We have to file the report, right? So there's a penalty for not filing the report. Because that used to be the question that got asked is, should we even bother reporting this? At cities I was working for, that got asked openly, do we want to bother reporting this or we just want to ignore this? And sometimes they did. And then there wasn't a penalty. It was like, well, you're very bad. And they send a stern email to the planners and nobody cared. That's different now. So we get a penalty for not reporting. And the penalties have been in the past, I don't know the current ones, but the penalties in the past for not complying, if you were out of compliance, if whatever reviewing agency said your report shows that you're out of compliance, had to do with access to funds, transportation improvement funds. So I don't know if those are still the same, but I don't think the penalties for non-compliance are monetary daily like they are for not filing the report. Not yet.
Not yet, but there will be.
It probably will be. That's the way they're moving, yeah.
Yeah.
They're moving into that territory. They have been traditionally non-access to funds that we use for transportation, and cities depend on those funds for road projects and things like that. So that's what it's been traditionally.
On the balance sheet, how much is that?
That I don't know. We'd have to look at what our road projects are and what they're expecting in those kind of funds and see what that meant.
And are these road projects are mandated by the state?
Well, the road project, no, they'd be road projects that we want to do. The state funds their own. If they're state road projects and things, they're their own projects. But we participate in some of those.
UDOT will still do what they want to do regardless of whether we comply or
You
not.
will. But whether or not we get additional funds to
So will
help
the
with.
county and MAG.
And I suppose that if the legislature said we weren't in compliance, it's hard to say because the implication would be, well, if you're not eligible for the funding from some of these transportation improvement funds, and one of the projects that we have for an intersection, for example, that involves a state road is partially funded with those, what does that mean? Because it's a UDOT project that we're just partnering with. Nobody knows exactly how that would turn out. We'll have to just.
And the goal is not to look for ways not to do it, but
no, but
to also understand the risk. I mean, look, the way they're putting this together, it's making it a risk factor profile.
Right.
And the risk factor profile is higher the more we comply.
Right.
So if it's just about reporting, happy to, but we are working on ADUs. So we need to pick and choose the ones that benefit the city without having to pay for the penalties.
Yeah.
But not, and cancel the others that we don't want to. But if access to fund means, if priority access to fund means something material,
Then maybe it's worth it.
maybe it's worth doing. And we instead of just complying, we go to full bore and have a material access to those funding for first home buyers and the impact fee for the senior housing. That was actually a genius idea. So they're trying to make us move without giving us enough data. Mm-hmm. And that is not acceptable.
Right.
I need to, how much money are you going to give me if I comply? How much money are you going to give me if I do all of it? Where's that money going to go? How easy is it to access? Is it easy, or are you going to give my citizen the run around and suddenly they don't get access? And then when we all comply, are you going to throw in another wrench in the gear? Or But it's
Right.
guaranteed. I know.
If everybody gets
mentioning it just to
priority
give you-
access, what does that mean? Right?
Yeah.
It's a good point. We need more data.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then to your point of a built-out city that's facing redevelopment's slower, it's more meticulous, it's more contextual, it's more what's in the fabric of the neighborhood, then I think it's also like, it's a curve that's diminishing returns with respect to, we can only do so much to continue to, add more. So then it's like, what does that look like? To your point earlier, what does that look like for this community in the future with respect to the states asking us to report on progress on our strategies?
Can we get an
But
exemption?
We can't. There's going to be diminishing returns for some of these strategies for how much progress we can actually make year by year. If our available land, for example, to do greenfield development isn't there. But also like ADUs. Okay, accessory apartments, we are reporting, hey, one of the cool things we've done now is with our NIT team, they're going out and checking on unapproved accessory apartments, and they're going through the process to work with those property owners to either come into compliance or then address the non-compliance. And so last year we reported, hey, there was actually, through the enforcement actions, we had, I can't remember off the top of my head, but we had X number of units that were non-compliant, now they're compliant. And so that was kind of okay, we're seeing some progress through our enforcement action, enforcement of accessory apartments. So to use an example.
Can we get an exemption based on land availability?
I don't believe that's a provision right now, but I think that's something that is something to bring up with the legislature for sure. As far as, hey, for communities, we're not the only one who is built out, and so how do we continue to move forward with ideas for these housing strategies?
That would just be something that we would need to lobby for through the ULCT or that group. Because right now, no, the way these bills are written, it's just cities of this class will do X and Y and Z, and counties of this class will do the other. So there's no exemptions built into it at all. Not yet.
No, it's very one size fits all. Like this is it. This is what you have. Go play. And
So we have to do the same thing Cedar Fort is doing.
Yeah.
With as much land as they
Yeah,
have.
We
we
have to
have-
do more.
You will let
because
them
we
work
have
for
a fixed
bigger.
guideway.
But yes, we have the same toolbox, basically. Basically, here's your,
You will let them transfer wealth or you will be penalized.
basically. So that's kind of what we're up against. We've got what the state's going on and we've got stuff. But I mean, everything we talk about ADUs, anything that we decide like for the general plan, all of that stuff can go towards that. Same for the senior housing overlay, which there's some interesting things there that I think could be discussed. So,
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
no, it's
Oh.
interesting. Lobbying, you said lobbying.
Lobbying.
We have option to lobby. Do you have a budget, lobbying budget?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll need to know if we have a lobby.
Gary,
We do.
you do.
Yes.
Okay,
Gary, your mic.
has a lobbyist. Your mic's off.
Oh, the city does have a lobbyist, and the city belongs to Utah League of Cities and Towns. And through that organization, on a state level, that's where the majority of the lobbying or bringing up issues and working with state legislators occurs.
Or is caused.
or what?
Or it's caused.
Well, it would be fun to see what the lobbying efforts look like and how successful have they been in the last 10 years to lobby for the city's favor against. Because so far, everything that comes through, no exemptions, no exemptions, no exemptions. And that's normally means the lobbyists are,
If you're really following this, League of Cities and Towns, the APA, I think, is involved too, the American Planning Association of Utah. The governor's created literally like, I don't know, what is it up to? 40? No, it's like there's like all these different
13
groups.
organizations.
Something like
groups,
that, yeah. there is some ridiculous number. He keeps creating more that are all focused on land and land use development, and they're all meeting in the off time. And then it'll be what it was like the last couple of years, where there's this smattering of stuff that's been agreed to, and then all the dark horse law, like all the other legislatures will come out, and like there's one that's particularly infamous now for all of his random bills to try and pass related to land use. But that's what's going on in our state. That's what's happening. And it's,
Lots of developers in the legislature,
It's-
a lot
it's-
of people who work for the state and the
Like,
legislature.
like UDOT being a quasi, not really.
yeah,
Okay.
semi-private, public, and yeah. So, I mean, ultimately the answers here is gotta watch who you're voting for and see what they stand for, what they
Yeah,
want.
I'm not ready for another.
Come on, Representative Cigar. You'll do a good job.
Dude, I just got out of a 6-week lobbying in DC. I'm not doing this.
I'm sure that was eye-opening. Anyway,
So what?
I'm sure it was eye-opening.
Oh,
So,
beautiful.
yeah. So, I mean, yes, that is kind of where we're at. We're because we have to follow state law.
So for clarification, I
Yeah.
wasn't in DC as I'm doing it. I was all Zoom call because they will not allow anybody to meet in office anymore. Just be clear.
But it's a lot of work to get anything done.
Well, thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Appreciate for answering all the questions. So I'd love to know the lobbying budget. Who's a lobbyist?
And we'll get the, and
I'll look up the
some
rec.
information about your other questions as well. I think that'd be a good review for.
I'll look up the lobbyists' records, see what they've actually been able to, or talk to them, see what they've been able to do to post through. And I mean, we're such a tight, packed city.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to give them everything they want. And even if we did, that means
If we had,
quality of life is going to be different.
we had the golden answer to this golden question, this question, this difficult question, I think everybody's looking for it, and so that's why we keep seeing so many changes. But yeah, you've taken some notes as far as your questions
Appreciate it.
about the priority funding, et cetera. We'll
Yeah,
get that.
how does that work? If truly they come in like, okay, this is how you do it, this is how easy or hard it is, this is how many first-time home buyer you're going to create if you do this, and then we go and market, which will increase home prices anyway, because people will capitalize on having free down payments. It doesn't work the way they think it does, but sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I had. So
That's all you had?
Any
Okay.
other questions?
Appreciate it so much.
Yeah. Anything else on this for right now? And I do be aware that each of those do require increased density where those zones are. I mean, that is partly what they're trying to use them. You get this benefit if you're willing to give a little bit more density. So,
We could use the annexation spot down west for something,
Yeah.
close to complying that allows both. And then we're done.
Yeah.
Until they say we're not done.
until they change the rule again. And you're right. How do you plan for goalposts that keep moving? We don't know.
No, they already have it planned. We're just getting the trickle ladder effect of that. Now,
Right.
this entire plan, whatever, we only see what we're supposed to see to get us in that small mouse maze to where we need to arrive. This is not like, oh, we're going to try this right now. Because if that's the case, we're going to try this now and see how it works. That means we're dealing with a bunch of unsophisticated punks. And if that's the case, it's even worse.
Yeah.
I would like, yeah, so it's
I would not.
both. It could be both.
It could be both. But we're dealing with moving posts. We're dealing with changes that are going to come, whether they're what we want for our city or not. So I do come back to the question, which is what we're talking about with the general plan, land use, redevelopment. How do we form an Orem that reflects Family City USA and the values that we have? And
They don't care.
the state doesn't care,
So
but
this
beyond
guy-
the state,
how
but
much
what
leverage
do we do?
How much leverage do we have in the state?
Almost none.
Nothing, zero. So what are we doing? Theatrical?
I I know it's cynical, but yes, I mean, on some levels, but we want to be beyond that. We want to have more than that.
Yeah.
How do we take control and autonomy for ourselves within what we're allowed? Like we've talked about, like, we can't even, like, we've talked about with other issues. We can't even say that we don't want flat roof buildings. We're limited on types of things that we can legislate for and how things look, what aesthetics are, and it just keeps getting more
Tighter.
restricted. And that's just the direction we're headed right now, if we don't
You got,
change things.
you got 4 representatives and 2 senators that cover Orem.
Yeah.
So,
Now,
You know-
you don't want to know my experience with them.
yeah, well, people need to start getting in their face and demanding that they do their job
We did.
in mass.
We did. And nothing, like, and political capital and the permutation and computation of how many constituents they will lose if it's not passed, it's all that matter.
Oh,
If I-
true, that's why I
if
say
lose
in
5
mass.
If I lose 5 to 50, if I lose 5, 50, I mean, for example, the promises that we have of how many people will not vote for them for the next round for what they've done, especially if that BLM went through, which, look, it didn't go through. But they have it down to the science. They know how many voters they'll lose for each topic. And that's all it comes to. How long I'm going to stay in power? By making the people that pay me happy or making the people that vote for me happy. That was my experience. If you've seen the GOP convention, how they talked about who they're going to keep in power, it had to do with how much money they invested in them, and regardless who's the new guy and what their standard and values go for. So it's,
Oh, yeah, it's at the national level, that's 100%, but the state is a little different.
hope so.
State, we
It is.
have some influence, we tried. But back to Orem.
Yes.
Because we don't have control of the state.
Reel it back in, I'm
Or-
sorry. Yes.
Back in Orem. But that's what I'm trying to say, is that as we work on the general plan, what message do we want to send? What do we want to say? What is it that we're saying, no, we're looking to the future, this is how we want to develop? And yes, the state can disagree with us all they want, but what message are we trying to send forward? How do we, as the planning commission of the city of Orem, want the future of Orem to be?
We'll read the details of Hops and Fizz and see
And
what it
see
looks
if they,
like.
and maybe there's strategies that work for us, and maybe there's strategies that don't. So, okay. We're going to return to our land use development discussion and redevelopment discussion.
We can.
But-
We don't have the mapping and stuff for that tonight.
Okay.
We wanted to talk about the housing
Okay.
and how this might feed into the housing element, or how it might, because the report is going to happen sooner than all of this. These are possibilities for the new, in the housing, in the moderate income housing element. The report is upon us. So, regardless. But, I think in terms of the land use element, one of the important developments is that we do have the forward-facing Google account now, so we can share documents, although it didn't work. So just in keeping with the technology generally lately, so the test document that we were going to send came back as undeliverable because it was outside. So we're
I
It's
literally
all
asked,
ostensibly
I
set up.
just want you all to know that I literally asked Jared and Grant every single week. I have asked for what, 12, 13?
12 weeks in a row.
Something like that. Hey, what's going on? And so we thought we were there, and I didn't get a test document last night. So
Yeah.
Where are you sharing them from?
From Google. So
From
we have
a
we have
Google Drive
Google
or-
Drive.
This is not hard.
No.
So the city has protocols in place for sharing outside of the organization. So because we're doing that, we've gone through the channels from what I've been instructed from our IT team to our security, our head, I can't remember his title, but our CIO, CISO, and I've spoken with both of them, created the structure that they advised us to do. And so I just need to follow up with him on maybe there was some permission that was not added for us to facilitate the sharing. So that's where we're at.
I'm gonna just raise a question of if it's so hard, why don't we just create email accounts for the commission?
Yeah, I've wondered the same.
So now that we're
That's-
part of the
we're close- we're
organization,
Close to that.
since we are part of the organization anyway.
I don't know. We'd have to ask IT, but we're trying to do essentially that because whatever Gmail you have will interface the easiest. So that's essentially what we're trying to do. And even that's difficult. So we'll keep trying, but we should be resolved soon, and then we can share those documents back and forth and really get that moving. We do need to, we're kind of hit pause for a minute on some of those things because of the necessity to prepare for the MIH report filing and for getting ready to adopt Matt's water conservation element as well. So we don't really have other things for land use element tonight for you.
That's fine. I was just reading the agenda.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's always on my mind. So when I send those things, it's.
okay. Does anyone want to talk about anything or have anything else related to the land use or the redevelopment, or are we good?
And we'll just see how much the water use forces the land use to do what.
Oh, are you talking about what he has? I've read it already.
Mhm.
There actually was a packet for this week that I didn't know about either. And anyway, but I read it today. It's just repeating over and over again the same strategies we've already been doing and how we've implemented and how water's going to be. I'm going to say it's relatively uncontroversial in the sense that it just kind of exists, and it's not like we're having to adopt strategies like this. It's
Okay.
like just saying, and most of that is like saying we want to use, why am I blanking on what it is? It's like wells. It's like it talks about the water and where it comes from and like
Water
how we
wise,
can
landscaping.
reclaim, they've implemented the water recycling so the effluent water can be used on lawns and stuff in parks, or like higher, faster monitoring of leaks and stuff like that. So it's pretty standard stuff.
Oh, thank you.
So, okay. I guess if there's no further business, then we will adjourn our work session.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.